the clouds, black and white, turn to color all around. All is new in the Savior I am found. See the sun now bursting through the clouds, black and white, turn to color all around. All is new in the Savior I am found. Oh, this is living now. This is living now.
Like a ring of solid gold, like a vow that is tested, like a covenant of old. Your love is enduring through the winter rain and beyond the horizon. With mercy for today, faithful you have been, and faithful you will be. You pledged yourself to me, and it's why I sing your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Ever be on my lips. You father the orphan, your kindness makes us whole, and you shoulder our weakness, and your strength becomes our own. And you're making me like you, clothing me in white, bringing beauty from ashes. For you will hurt your bride, free of all her guilt, and rid of all her shame, and known by her true name. And it's why I sing your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Ever be on my lips. You will be praised, you will be praised, with angels and saints who we sing worthy are you, Lord. And you will be praised, you will be praised, with angels and saints who we sing worthy are you, Lord. Ever be on my lips. Ever be on my lips.
There's no hiding from your grace. I can't deny your heart for mine, and it's unrelenting chase. I was on the edge of deception, caught up in my own hesitation, until your love took over me. When I let go, then I fall like
The highway is calling me to a life unlike before. The Father's heart is beckoning, and I can't resist no more. Lead me in the ways of devotion. I don't wanna get caught in emotions. My heart is only for you, Lord.
So I let go and I let love show me life like it's supposed to be. An oasis, here awaits us, all the freedom I'll ever need. Now I'm alive. When I let go, then I fall like when I let go, then I fall like when I let go, then I fall like so I let go and I let love show me life like it's supposed to be. An oasis, here awaits us, all the freedom I'll ever need. Now I'm alive. When I let go, then I fall like when I let go, then I fall like when I let go, then I fall like when I let go, then I fall like
You must have thought I was faithless, but it came from my heart. 'Cause I got a song that will never die. I know your love is the reason why. I'll sing the night into the morning. I'll sing the fear into your praise. I'll sing my soul into your presence. Whenever I say that, don't knock today.
you. So that your love ain't over everything. Take the one, I'm content. Just Jesus. Just Jesus. The way, the truth, the life. This is all I want. That the love I have for you doesn't fade along with you. Can you help with that? The reason that I ask, I've seen far too many.
Positioning himself as an arms dealer for the creative revolution, Todd Henry teaches leaders and organizations how to establish practices that lead to everyday brilliance. The Accidental Creative Podcast, with millions of downloads, delivers weekly tips and ideas for staying prolific, brilliant, and healthy. Todd believes that inspiration has a very short shelf life without application, so his talks include concrete practices. He is the author of 4 books, which have been translated into more than a dozen languages. Todd's latest book, Herding Tigers, is a practical handbook for every manager charged with leading teams to creative brilliance. Let's welcome Todd Henry.
Well, hello, my brilliant friends. One thing I know for certain on this planet is that heat combined with humidity will cause you to make some of the worst decisions of your life. And the particular situation I have in mind was a couple of years ago, my family and I made a trip to Disney World in Orlando, Florida, and it was really hot, and the terrible decision was choosing to go into a gift shop. Now, I don't know about you, but I tend to avoid gift shops at all costs. I think they're designed solely for the purpose of grabbing me by the ankles and shaking me upside down to see what kind of money I have left in my pockets. But on this day, it was hot, so we went in. My family was strolling the aisles, and I look up, and I happen to see what I have since come to refer to as the perfect T-shirt. So I'm going to show it to you, and I'm going to explain to you why I believe this is the perfect T-shirt. It's called How to Draw Darth Vader. All right? I'm going to walk you through it panel by panel. Panel 1, start with the head and body. Easy enough. Panel 2, add a cape. Again, so far so good. Panel 3, draw the face, gloves, and boots. I think any of us could do this, right? Right? Panel 4, add details and some shading. Finished. I think I laughed so hard I snorted when I saw this. I did. I really did. I think this is the perfect T-shirt for a couple of reasons. First of all, come on, it's just funny. It's just funny, right? But second of all, I think this is often how we talk about things like leadership, isn't it? We talk about it as if it's all about the big things. Let's have a vision. Let's hire great people. Let's put them against important problems. And voila, brilliant work pops out the other side. Who knew it was that easy to do brilliant work? But those of us in the trenches, friends, we all know that the brilliant work happens between panels 3 and 4. And it's really just the result of a lot of talented, dedicated, driven people doing whatever it takes to make it happen, which is great. We love spending ourselves on behalf of work that we care about. But there are also any number of pitfalls that we encounter as we try to produce brilliant work every day. I've spent the last 20 years of my life leading creative teams and studying creativity under pressure, creativity among those who have to go to work every day and solve problems. How many of you solve problems every day as a function of your job? How many of you solve other people's problems every day? Okay, one final question. How many of you had a specific person in mind when I asked that last question? Yeah, that's what we do. If you solve problems every day, congratulations, you're a creative. You don't need $300 designer skinny jeans. You don't. It helps. It does. It squeezes all the blood to your brain, makes you really creative. It's great. That's why they wear them. But you don't need them. You don't. If you solve problems, you're a creative. I believe that every creative professional should aim for 3 things. I think we should aim to be prolific, to be brilliant, and to be healthy all at the same time. Prolific meaning doing a lot of work because we have to do that. Brilliant meaning doing good work because we also have to do that. But healthy meaning that we're working in a sustainable way. The problem is it's really difficult to get all 3 of these right. For example, we can be prolific, meaning we're doing a lot of work, and brilliant, meaning we're doing good work, but we miss on the healthy piece. We miss on the sustainability piece. And there's a technical term I coined for these people, and it's fried. These are the walking zombies that haunt the hallways of our organizations. And listen, here's the thing. This works for a while. It does. But if you don't get the healthy piece right, you will eventually lose the prolific and the brilliant piece as well, because you're not a machine, I'm not a machine, we're not machines. We can't function indefinitely this way. So this isn't going to work for us. And of course, we can also be healthy, meaning that we're working sustainably, and we could be brilliant, meaning we're actually doing good work, but we're not prolific enough to keep up with organizational demand. And there's a term for these people, it's unreliable. Because we can't be counted on to deliver when it matters most. And we all know those people we don't really want on our project team. None of them are in this room, of course. None of them are watching right now. But we all know those people because they can't be counted on to keep up with everyone else. And of course, that won't work. And just to close the loop, of course, we could be prolific, meaning we're doing a lot of work. And we could be healthy, meaning we're working sustainably. But our work is terrible. It's awful, certainly not brilliant. And there's a technical term for these people in teams, and it's fired. Because you're not going to keep your job for very long if you're not producing consistently great work. So, leaders, people of influence, the first question I have for you today is this. If this were your definition of success, how would you be doing right now? If you were measuring your effectiveness as a leader by asking, is my team prolific, brilliant, and healthy? How would you be doing right now? It's a tall order, for sure it is. It's really, really challenging, but it's possible if we provide the couple of things that creative teams really need from us in order to thrive. The first thing that creative people need from you is stability. Creative people need clear and effective boundaries, a stable environment within which to do their wild, imaginative work. They do. Some people think that creatives just want complete freedom. Complete freedom is not helpful to the creative process. Filmmaker Orson Welles once said, "The absence of limitations is the enemy of art." Creative people need clear and effective boundaries in order to channel their energy in productive ways. But here's the thing, leaders. As a leader, that means you have to take the first risk. You have to take the first risk by giving them clear direction, even when you're not certain. Some leaders get really uncertain, really unclear when they're not certain because they don't want to put themselves on the line if they're wrong. Your team needs a stable, clear environment. They need clarity of process, which means they need to know that the process isn't going to be shifting midstream. They need you to secure buy-in from anybody who has the potential to throw a project off the rails at the last minute. Tell me if you've ever had this experience. You're working on something, your team's excited, everybody's excited, and you work for days or maybe weeks on it, and then you get to the end and somebody swoops in at the last minute and says, it's not really working for me. Let's try something else. How does your team feel in that moment? Deflated? Yeah. But also betrayed. Because you as a leader did not create a stable, protected environment within which they could do their wild, imaginative work. And over time, if that happens enough times in a row, you know what will happen? Your team will just take a posture of, you know what? Just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. It's going to change anyway, so just tell me what to do. Is that what you want? No. Your team needs to feel protected. You're going to step in and protect them and create space in which they can produce the best work of their lives. So that's stability, and it's important. But there's another thing that creative people need from you. The second thing they need from you is challenge. Creative people want to be pushed. They want to try new things. They want to experiment. They want to risk. They want to venture out to the edges of their possibilities. But they need your permission to do so. They need you speaking courage into them. They need you to tell them things they don't even know about themselves yet. I believe in you. I see you. I know what you're capable of. I know what's inside of you that you don't even see yet, and I'm going to help you call that out because I believe in you and your possibilities. And my job as a leader is to unleash you to do the best work of your life. That's what creative people crave from you. They want to be challenged. Now, here's the problem. As you can imagine, stability and challenge exist in tension with one another. So as you increase the amount of stability in an organization, you tend to decrease the amount of challenge because things are more predictable, right? There are clearer edges, clearer expectations, clearer processes. And as you increase the amount of challenge, you often destabilize the organization because you're trying new things. Maybe we're out over our skis a little bit and we're trying to figure out how we support these ambitions that we have. When you have an environment of high challenge and low stability, you might find your team growing angry. Have you ever walked into that meeting and your team is just staring daggers at you from the beginning? Like, what next, leader? What's going on now, right? It's just me. I'm the only one. Okay. Often it's because we are challenging our team without the stability needed to support what we're asking them to do. And when this happens, I call these shooting star organizations because they often produce a lot of work for a while and then they burn out quickly. Because that's not how we're wired to function. It simply isn't. Of course, when you have low stability and low challenge, these teams are lost. And much like the television series Lost, things are unlikely to end well. Too soon? Okay, sorry. Okay, when you have high stability, low challenge, often creative people feel stuck. It's great that I have a stable environment. It's great that you care about me. It's great that the processes are clear, but I don't feel challenged. And they'll start seeking better horizons. They'll start seeking something that challenges them personally. Of course, what we want is the right mix of stability and challenge. This is where creative people and creative teams thrive. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about stability and challenge. The mix is going to be different for each and every person on your team. So you need to know what each person on your team needs from you in order to produce their best work. Some people just need a couple of check-ins a week, and they're great. Wind me up and set me go. Some people need more frequent check-ins in order to feel like they're on the right course. They need more of a sense of stability. You need to understand what the people on your team need so you can provide it for them consistently. If you do, they will reward you with the best work of their life. So stability and challenge, great. Those are panels 1, 2, and 3 concepts. How do we move from panel 3 to panel 4? How do we instill stability and challenge? I want to give you a couple of principles from my book, Herding Tigers, to help you do just that. First of all, to instill stability, you have to earn the right to be followed every single day. Earn the right to be followed every single day. I want you to think about a leader who's had a tremendous impact on your life. Someone who has changed your life forever. You are different today because of how this person poured into you and shaped you and molded you. Now, I want you to think about some of the qualities of that person. What was it that made them such an effective leader? I guarantee you that if you peel back the layers of your answers to that question, at the root is going to be one word: trust. Trust. Trust is the currency of creative teams. Without trust, you cannot do wild, imaginative, brilliant, risky, world-changing work. You can't. It's impossible. But here's the problem with trust. Most leaders aren't blowing trust in the big ways. We're not overtly lying to our teams. We're not doing anything that everybody else will look at and say, whoa, right? It's not the big ways that we blow trust. It's often in the little things. And the problem is we have a misunderstanding about how trust functions. We tend to think about trust kind of like a bank account, right? I'm going to put a little bit of trust in my bank account. Every once in a while, if I make a little trust withdrawal, that's okay, right? Because I've got a positive trust balance. It's perfectly fine. But that's not how trust functions. Trust is not a bank account. Trust is more like a water balloon. You fill it, and you fill it, and you fill it, and you fill it. And then if you puncture it, even in a tiny way, you're going to lose it everywhere. So it's the little things we do that cause us to lose trust in the big moments. What are some of the little ways that we as leaders forfeit trust? Well, the first one is something I call declaring undeclarables. All right, a couple of years ago, a bear was spotted in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I live. Well, not really in Cincinnati. It was like, maybe 50 miles east of Cincinnati. Now, those of you who live in bear-infested territory, this is not really a big deal for you. But for us, it was kind of a big deal. We don't have bears in Ohio, so the news was all over it, all over this story. And so they were covering the bear. They were talking about it every night. My kids were absolutely freaked out. I mean, they're imagining this bear like crawling up the side of our house, sneaking in the window, eating them in their sleep, So one night over dinner, I made a pronouncement. I said, listen, that bear is like 50 miles east of here. There's not a chance in the world you're ever going to see that bear. No way, no chance. And that made them, a little calmer. satisfy them. I felt like dad of the year. I went to bed that night singing odes to myself, and everything seemed fine. All right, 1 week later, I pull out of my driveway, I take a right, I go to the bottom of the hill. There's a news crew camped out at the bottom of the hill. I thought, well, that's weird. So I roll down my window and I say, hey, what's going on? They said, well, you know that bear we've been talking about on the news? All the blood drains out of my face. I'm like, yeah? I said, well, you're not going to believe it. But about an hour ago, 2 joggers saw the bear cross the road and go down into the creek. It's down there right now. Do you want to see it? A block from my house, people. Speak, your servant is listening, right? Are you kidding me? Over the next week, that bear was spotted in every single place my family goes. I kid you not, right? It's like news at 5, bear spotted in Henry family's favorite restaurant. My kids are like, whoa! Bear spotted in Crossroads Church parking lot, looked hungry for small children. I kid you not, like every single place my family went, that bear was spotted. Let's just say that dad lost a little bit of credibility with the whole bear thing. Right? For like 6 months after that, it was like, now, Dad, is that really true, or is that kind of like the bear thing? And as leaders, we do the exact same thing. We are absolutely going with your idea on this project. You know what? Actually, the client changed their mind, so we're going to have to go with a different idea. Maybe next time. You are absolutely in line for a promotion next. You know what? The organization changes policy, so you're going to have to wait a little while longer. I will meet with you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. You know what? Something else came up. I'm afraid we're going to have to push back our meeting. Every single one of these is like a little puncture in that water balloon. And it's going to cause us to lose trust when it matters most. Is there any place in your leadership where you're declaring undeclarables? The second way that we breach trust unknowingly is by being a superhero. We push everybody away because we want to pretend like we have all the answers. Now, there are a couple of things wrong with this. First of all, your team definitely knows you don't have all the answers. Sorry to break it to you, but they do. And secondly, when we push people away, we fail a fundamental responsibility of leadership, which is to incorporate the values and the ideas and the diversity of opinion of the brilliant people we have on our team. Brilliance is forged in the cauldron of creative conflict. And when we push people away, when we play the superhero, we betray their trust, because what we're saying is, I know better than you do, and I don't trust you to do your job. Well, why should they trust you then? Both of these examples, declaring undeclarables and playing the superhero, are sourced in one word: insecurity. Insecurity. I'm insecure, so I make a promise to you because I want to make everybody like me right now. We fall into the likability trap. I want everybody to like me right now, so I make a promise I don't know if I can keep just because I want to keep the peace. I'm insecure in my leadership. I'm insecure, so I play the superhero. I push you away to make you think I know all the answers. But it's because I'm really insecure that I don't know all the answers. I can't stand up to your questioning. I believe your area of greatest insecurity is the area where you have the potential to do the most damage to your team. Whatever you're protecting or hiding at all costs, that's the place, leaders, people of influence, that's the place where you have the potential to do the most damage to the people around you. So friends, commit to earning the right to be followed every single day, because trust is not a bank account. It's a water balloon. All right, the second principle I want to share with you today is that you have to loosen your grip. This is a message for control freaks like me. Hi, my name is Todd. I'm a control freak. As a leader, your job is not to do the work. Your job is to lead the work. That's a fundamentally different thing. Now, some of you might say, Todd, I'm not trying to control the work. I'm just trying to help the people on my team do things exactly the way I would do them. It's kind of the same thing. It is. Some people hire bright, sharp, talented, amazing people, and then they spend their entire day trying to turn them into little versions of themselves. And when that happens, the people on your team will eventually just give up and say, you know what, just tell me what to do. You will not get the best out of your team. Let me illustrate how this works by uttering the most terrifying words ever uttered by a human being. Let me show you a magic trick I just learned. Okay, I'm gonna put 5 cards on the screen. I want everyone to choose one card. Just one card. I'm gonna mind meld with you. All right, everybody have your card? Everybody around the world, even you, Phoenix, got it? Corpus Christi, great, all right. All right, now, here's what we're gonna do. I have done extensive research into the psychological profile of leaders and influencers, and I think I can with great certainty predict the card that most of you chose. So I'm gonna put up another slide where I'm gonna remove the card I think you chose. How many people see your card? Nobody? 5 people? Greatest trick ever. Thank you, GLS. Have a great day. Actually, these are 4 entirely different cards than the ones I put up the first time. Those of you who raise your hand, come see me after. I have people I can refer you to. It's no problem. I'm happy to do it. It's fine. Why does this trick work? It works because I gave you a problem to solve and you performed brilliantly. With a few exceptions, you performed brilliantly. You did. But in so doing, many of you ignored the context. And friends, when you tell your team how to do something and you step in and you control the work and you micromanage and you tell them exactly how you want them to do it, they shut off their brain. They stop paying attention to context. They stop looking for nuance. They stop asking questions and they just say, just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. Is that what you want? No, of course not. No, that's not what you want. But that's what happens when we get insecure, when we get tired, when we get anxious as a leader. So we have to transition from leading by control to leading by influence. You see, control is all about presence. Let's be honest. How many of you are at least a little bit freaked out that you're sitting in this room right now while work is getting done back at the office? So okay, admitting it's the first step. You see, control is about presence. Influence is about principle. We set the rails, we establish clear objectives, and then we give people on our team the freedom to do what we hired them to do. This is how we unleash our team to produce brilliant work. In order to do this, we have to establish a point of view as a leader. In other words, we have to have a clear and defined leadership philosophy. Does your team know how you define success? Do they know how you define a good idea? What does a good idea look like? How do I know? How do you choose a good idea? Does your team know how conflict should be handled? Does your team know what an acceptable and an unacceptable risk looks like? Have you instilled these principles in your team and then given them freedom to do what they do best within the rails that you've set? We're aiming for bounded autonomy, freedom within limits. That's what we're aiming for. If you haven't communicated a leadership philosophy to your team, I guarantee you they are guessing about all of those things. And often ghost rules emerge in our organizations in the void that should be filled with a leadership philosophy. Ghost rules are invisible narratives that guide our team's behavior. For example, and I'm sure none of you have ever heard this before, that'll never work around here. It's a ghost rule. It's an invisible narrative. And it limits our team's ability to engage fully and bring themselves fully to the work that they're doing. So establish clear and effective principles within which your team should function. And make those principles simple. Dee Hock, the founder and chair emeritus of Visa, once said, simple, clear purpose and principles give rise to complex and intelligent behavior. Complex rules and regulations give rise to simple and stupid behavior. Can I get an amen? Yes, absolutely. Keep it simple, very direct. Go back, write out a couple of tenets, share them with your team, and then release your team to do what you've hired them to do. They will reward you with the best work of their lives. They will. The final principle I want to share with you today is, leaders, you have to take care of number one. You have to take care of number one. There's an old saying, as goes the leader, so goes the team. We've all heard this before, and I believe it's true, but I'm going to amend it. I believe if you are not inspired, you cannot inspire. If you are not taking time to fill your well, then you're going to have nothing to give to the people on your team. Your team should be drinking from the overflow of the inspiration in your life. But if you're not making it a discipline to fill your well, you're going to have nothing left for your team. What are you doing to fill your well? You owe it to your team to be a model of what prolific, brilliant, and healthy looks like. Leaders, discipline yourself. Build time into your life. Build time into your schedule to fill your well, to commune with great minds, as Stephen Sample from USC put it. Right? Fill your mind with the great thoughts of others. Connect dots. Connect with your personal passion. Make it a discipline on a regular basis to put yourself in situations that make you feel uncomfortable, that you have to experience the world in new ways. If you're an introvert, go to a dance club. If you're an extrovert, go to a museum and don't talk to anyone all day long. It's incredibly painful. It is. But it forces you to have to interact with the world in new ways. And it will unleash your latent creative potential. You will have a well of resources from which to draw when you're leading your team. Jack London said, inspiration doesn't come when you want it to. You can't wait for inspiration to strike. You have to go after it with a club. And I believe that to be true. You have to go after inspiration with a club. You have to chase it down. So what are you going to do to take care of yourself, to model for your team what being prolific, brilliant, and healthy looks like? Because if you are not inspired, you cannot inspire others. There's a Greek proverb that says, a society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they know they shall never sit. As a leader, you have the opportunity every single day to plant seeds that are going to grow up into trees, that are going to produce fruit, that are going to bless countless people that you're never even going to know. What a privilege. What a privilege. And what a responsibility we have, leaders and people of influence. Listen, in 100 years, that project you're working on right now, that really important project, the one that's keeping you awake at night, in 100 years, nobody's going to remember that. They're not. I'm sorry, heck, in 50 years, most people aren't going to remember that. I mean, to take it a step further, in 50 years, most of your organizations probably won't be around. I'm just saying. So if you're planning on living a while, you might want to start pulling your resume together. But the influence that you have on that person you lead will echo for generations to come. As you model for them what generous, trustworthy leadership looks like, and then they do the same for the person they lead, and they do the same for the person they lead, and they do the same for the person that they lead, generations from now, people will be influenced by you, and they will never even know you, and you won't know them, but they will be sitting under a tree that you planted. A bad leader's influence dies with them. A great leader's influence echoes for generations. And the measure of your greatness as a leader, it's not the work that you do. The measure of your greatness as a leader is the brilliant work that you unleash others to do. Nobody listening to this has a mandate to change the world. You don't. Everybody listening to this has a mandate to change the world around them. That's what leaders do. That's what people of influence do. So in 20 years, when I give this talk to an entirely different group of people, and I ask them, I want you to think of a leader who has had an unbelievable impact on your life, somebody who has changed your life forever. Let that person be you. Let that person be you. Friends, choose to be a leader who makes echoes. You've got this. God bless all of you who choose to lead. Thank you very much.
It has been such an incredible 2 days, hasn't it? Well, it's not over yet. For those of you that have been to the summit before, you may be starting to shift in your seats a little because you know what's coming. There's a pastor on the stage, and he's about to ask for money. So lock the doors on every level at sites, close down the doors, nobody move, nobody gets hurt. That's what we say every Sunday at our church during offering time. But before you check out, I want you to consider this. Many of us give to many different causes throughout the year, as we should. There are a ton of fantastic organizations out there doing amazing work. If you ask me, one of the most impactful uses of these resources, I would say, bet on leaders. Leaders are the change makers that affect every cause in every section. I want everyone to take a moment and think about a cause that you care deeply about. Now think about the impact that could be made for that cause if local leaders were empowered and equipped to raise up and rally around that cause. That's the impact that the summit has. We've seen it time and time again. Today, you are a force of influence who has an opportunity to use generosity to back other forces of influence. Friends, your gift today truly matters. Let me share a personal story of how I've seen God move through the GLS. A week before I delivered my talk at the GLS in 2015, suddenly my world changed. I had to write the eulogy of my dear sister who died suddenly. As I looked to put together the pieces, I stood right here on this very stage. A week later, I stood here with my heart in pieces. Because at that moment, honestly, the last thing I wanted to do was stand on this stage and fulfill God's assignment of giving a talk here at the summit. I had no idea. At that time, I couldn't really appreciate God's timing. Because there was a leader in Pakistan who God wanted to say something to. And he used the message that I gave that day. And I'd like to read a letter that pastor sent to the summit team. He says, I was ready to give up. As a pastor watching my church die, it was really painful. I recently had a stroke and my family was suffering due to my health. I was at the edge of giving up on God. He says, I even tried suicide. I've been praying for the last 2 years, expecting God would do something supernatural in return for my prayers and revive me. But nothing happened. Then I was given a brochure about the GLS. My travel and lodgings were sponsored for me, and that was a great help in my decision to attend. Then during a speaker's session, tears started rolling down my cheeks. I watched the entire session with blurred focus because I was crying the whole time. Some of you are in this summit right now. Some of you are watching right now, and you are sitting here on empty, and I'm here to tell you that is not a sign of a great work ethic. That is a sign for missed opportunity for you to experience the abundance of God's provision in your life. It's not about you. sitting here on empty, on the verge of quitting, you've missed it. You've missed the beauty of giving it to Jesus. What would it mean for you to live in a way, lead in a way, where you had something left? His letter continues. Pastor sitting beside me, who I didn't know, held my hand to comfort me for the whole session. In that moment, God did something supernatural in me. I came back changed. I came back to my church and preached again that Sunday. And after the service, a Muslim lady who had recently moved next door to my church while I was away at the GLS met me and asked me to pray for her. And after 2 days, she came back to our service and asked for prayer again. God did it. She was healed. Before she left, she gave me an envelope that had the exact amount of money needed to run the church and provide salary to the church staff for a whole year. Praise God. He says she's a regular visitor to our services now, and we're praying for her salvation. I look at myself and I look at what God has done, and I can only say, thanks be to God for working in mysterious ways. And I gotta say thank you to the GLS. As I read that letter for the first time, as tears streamed down my face, I thought, wow, what an amazing God. Then I thought, you would think they would have had me back at the summit by now. That was amazing. They got Patrick Lencioni. He ain't saved nobody's life in Pakistan, and he back every other year. You know what I'm saying? What kind of operation is? I had to lead him back to Christ after his session yesterday. You know what I mean? It's like, what? But then I had a deeper, spiritual, more godly thought. And it is this. We have a God who calls us to do hard things. It's humbling to know how God chooses to use talks given at a summit to impact leaders around the world in ways we could never imagine.
When the earthquake happened, I was worried about my family and the church. We are told that it's not safe. There were big cracks on the road. Houses were collapsed. People were injured in the streets. When I arrived at the church, the walls of our church premises were collapsed. My family was sitting inside the compound, and I was quite relieved to see them safe. There was so much chaos going on. The neighbors were on the street. They were afraid to go back to their homes. They didn't have any place to go. Thanks to the generous donors around the world, we had just had the first GLS. I remember the local church is the hope of the world. So the first thing we did was to open the gates to anyone who was looking for a shelter. Even though our relationship with our neighbors was stale, they slept whole week here with their families. We tried to provide for the whole community. They needed clothes, food, and the utensils. We also became aware of people in remote villages who were completely cut off. So our church sent teams of volunteers to provide aid where it was needed most. We heard from the people that they saw the caring heart of the church. Before the earthquake, we had big walls, but after the wall collapsed, we decided to build so the people can see what's going on inside the church. Through GLS, we are not only training our Christian leaders, but we are approaching the leaders from the other sectors also. I want all the leaders from this country to attend the GLS because we have that desire to win this city. The GLS will change everything, not only the spiritual lives of our people, but it will change the economic, financial, in every aspect of their lives, it will change. The earthquake has enabled us to seek God's plan in our lives because we are here in this earth not to fulfill our will. We're here to fulfill our God's plan. That should be the church's only desire and vision. I believe our local church is the hope of this country, Nepal.
In 1992, I served on a small staff at First United Methodist Church in downtown Oklahoma City. And my pastor, Nick Harris, heard about a conference that was just outside of Chicago that would later become known as the Global Leadership Summit. And even though we were on a very tight financial budget, he decided it was worth the expense to take 7 of us on a trip to see what we might learn about leadership. And honestly, we had absolutely no idea how our church, how our lives, and how our ministry would be changed in that short period of time. As a young pastor, I never saw the value of leadership in the church. I thought that leadership was a business term, and as a pastor, we just did spiritual things. But I would soon learn that leading is one of the most spiritual things that you can actually do. When I first realized that I could use the gift of leadership to impact people, something came alive inside of me, and I realized that one of the most important things that we can do anywhere we are is lead people to make a difference in this world. My first time at the Global Leadership Summit, I sat kind of in the nosebleed section, and I was so shaken, so stirred. The way I describe it now is that I got what I call the gift of disorientation. It's a gift. That's the way some of you feel right now. The fire hydrant's blowing and you feel disoriented. It's a good thing because so often when we hope to grow in our leadership, we look to people who may be 1 or 2 steps ahead of us. But what I found is I was learning from leaders that were 10, 20, 100 steps ahead of me. When I think about leadership, I can't imagine a better place to grow, an event to light your fire, to sharpen your gifts, to inspire your vision, and empower you to lead in a way that truly makes a difference. These stories that we just heard, lives that have been completely changed. Stories like my wife, who now sees herself as a leader and helping lead in our church and leading a ministry, Branch 15. Imagine more stories like these. Imagine 1 million stories like these, because honestly, that's our goal by the year 2025, to equip and inspire 1 million influencers just like you through the Global Leadership Summit. I believe we will do it, and I believe we will do more, but we all need to work together in order to do it, and we cannot do it without you. What's incredibly exciting to me is to recognize that right now and throughout the year, we will have more than 14, in this moment, in this room, we have 1,400 international leaders with us today from 90 of the 135 countries that host the Global Leadership Summit. And I would love to just ask and honor and celebrate those international leaders who are in the room today. Would you stand to your feet? We want to tell you thank you. We want to cheer you on. We want to celebrate what you're doing all over the world. So remain standing for a moment. Remain standing for a moment. You are heroes. You are making a difference. What you do really matters. It's culture shifting. It's generation impacting. It's church building. What you do matters. We honor you. We bless you. We thank you. We celebrate you. Thank you for your investment in leaders. To me, this is about the most exciting thing that we do. The opportunity to make an impact all over the world is staggering. But truthfully, 60% of the countries represented would not be able to hold the Global Leadership Summit without the gift that you're going to give today. Equally exciting is the reality that there are 5,000 inmates joining us right now at this moment from 87 prisons, and we want to give a shout out to every single one of you. You are a leader, you are growing, you are strong, and we believe that good days are to come as you invest what's been invested in you to make a difference in this world. I love the strategy of the Global Leadership Network. What we do is we take the profits earned from the summit in the United States, we add your gifts to that profit and gifts from others, donors, and then we share it to get the summit to those who need it most. Now, for those of you that are churchgoers, let me be very, very clear. This is not your tithe that we're going to give today. The tithe belongs to the local church. Pastors, I got your back. Okay? This is a gift above your tithe, and I know that every single one of us can make a difference. Here's great news. We announced yesterday, and this is amazing, that we have a generous partner that's offered to match any gift above $100. Think about this. If you give $100, that's $200. If you give $200, that's $400. For those of you thinking about that $500,000 gift, let me just do the math for you. Double it, that's $1 million, and you can make an amazing difference. Please hear me, though. Every gift of any size matters, and it matters a lot. If you can do anything today, and I know that we all can, please, please do. There's 3 ways to give. The first thing you can do is you can open your Global Leadership Summit event app, open up the app, and you can click on Donate. Or you can go to givegls.org, or use the QR code in the handout received. You can just scan the code with your camera app on your smartphone, and the website givegls.org will pop up. Or if you're a boomer, you can tear out the envelope on the back of the notebook and you can give a check today, and someone will deposit that into an account, and I think that still works. Service hosts are going to come in a moment. I want you just to pull out your phones. I want you to give in any way that you choose, and as you do, let me just say this. Why am I here? Why do I believe in this place? Because it impacted my life. It impacted my family, and that little church I told you about, First United Methodist Church, on April 19th, in 1995, the Murrell building was hit across the street. My office was blown out of the wall. I was not there that day. I was at seminary, but our church was totaled, and we were a little church in the middle of Oklahoma City, and what's now known as the Global Leadership Network sent us, for no reason at all, except we were a part of the family of God, sent us a check for $10,000 to help us rebuild our church. When you give to this organization, you make a difference all over the world. Building leaders, give generously, and let's impact lives all over the world today.
We need the better leaders. We need different leaders. We need the servant leaders. And my grand vision is that GLS in the next 10 years will be a tool of encouragement for younger people, that they can really, with God's help, make some difference in their society.
Most of the pastors we are serving, they come to the summit, and many times they said, our denomination they're not training us, they're not investing in us. If it's not because of what you guys are doing, we don't know what we would do. Working with these pastors and seeing all the results, by reaching their community and transforming their community, it's only God.
I think to see a change in society, we need every man and woman to know that they have an influence. We need to see leaders and others. When I start to believe I have an influence, this will push me to change. This will push me to develop and grow and to play a better role, whether in my personal life or in society. This is when we will see a better place.
Personally, I've definitely become a better father and a better husband. Serving in the role that I do as a shepherd and a leader requires a lot of time, a lot of energy to pour into ministry. God has really challenged me to become a better leader and an influencer in that capacity. And that's one big thing that I've learned from Global Leadership. You know what? We're in this together. We're not doing this on our own. And God will bring us through all this, and He's going to use us because ultimately it's His grander vision to make that influence upon our lives and everyone else through us. On behalf of myself and Swaziland, I would like to say thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you from my heart.
All of this is possible because of you.
Without you, I don't think we would have experienced the impact that we would have had if it wasn't for you.
Personally, I have benefited a lot from attending and using the resources of GLS.
All of this is possible because you are giving to God's kingdom. You are making this possible.
If we don't work on developing leaders today, the world would be in a much worse place tomorrow.
May the Lord repay you for the kindness that you have shown in supporting and being a part of this amazing movement that is taking place through GLS.
May God bless you for all the support you are doing to the Global Leadership Summit around the world. Thank you.
Dr. Krish Kandaya is the founding director of Home for Good, an organisation seeking to make a real difference in the lives of vulnerable children. An advocate for fostering and adoption, he has written 13 books, including his latest, Faiththeism, Why Christianity and Atheism Have More in Common Than You Think. A regular speaker at international events, including TEDx Oxford, Kandaya holds faculty positions at Regent's College Vancouver and Regent's Park College and Oxford University. He is a regular broadcaster on radio and television, offering both creativity and academic reflection to lead strategic change, culture shifts and innovation. Please welcome Dr. Krish Kandaya to the summit.
On one side of the door was a red-faced 6-year-old little boy. He was still wearing his school uniform. A few hours before, he'd been in class, and he was called to the head teacher's office. And he knew the way, because he'd been there many times before. But this time, the head teacher told him to sit down. She spoke kindly to him and said she had some difficult news. She said at the end of the school day, he wasn't able to go home. He was going to have to go with this lady. She's called a social worker. She's going to take you to another family. They're called a foster family. Well, how long will I be there, miss? Well, just until it's safe. Well, can I go and say goodbye to my mum and dad? You will see your mum and dad again, but not today. You're going to go with this lady. She's a social worker. Well, can I say goodbye to my sister? You will see your sister again soon, but not today. Well, can I go pat my dog? Not today. So this 6-year-old boy ends up on the doorstep, waiting to be let inside, terrified about what was on the other side. On the other side of that door was me. And I just had a really difficult day at work. Things hadn't been going well. We had some internal tensions, some difficult conversations, and all I wanted to do was lie on my sofa and binge watch Netflix. In fact, I'd been watching a Netflix show recently. It was a clever one. It was about how to tidy up your house. And there was a lady there, Mary Kondo. She said, you should only allow things in your house that are going to spark joy. 6-year-old boy on the other side of the door is not going to spark joy. So I was worried. Friends, I have 2 jobs. My day job is leading a charity, one trying to find homes for vulnerable children in the foster care system. I'm also a consultant. I try to work with NGOs that want to catalyze change. They want to work with government and church and business. That's one of my jobs. The second part of my job is what I do at night time. I am a foster carer. My wife and I, we've been caring for kids for about 12 years, and we love it. But actually, those 2 jobs are not that separate. I've learned about leadership through the foster children that have come through my house. And I want to tell you some of the lessons I've learned from them this morning. I have 3 principles I want to talk to you about. And it will be quite easy to remember. I'm calling this VIP leadership. We're going to talk about vision, inclusion, and proximity. Let's start with vision. I didn't want to let that little boy into my house and into my life, because when I looked at him, all I could see was trouble. This little boy had got in trouble at school. He threw a chair through a double-glazed window when he got worried. I was worried what he would do to my family. But my wife is the visionary in our household. She didn't see trouble, she saw treasure. She saw someone of value, dignity, and worth that we needed to invite into our home and into our lives. She saw the anger in this little boy as a positive. He was a fighter. He wasn't going to let the world run over him. She saw the shouting as a positive. He was going to speak up when he saw injustice, and so she was delighted to welcome him in. And actually, this little boy reframed my vision. I've got a picture that might cause us a little bit of issue. I don't know if we're making friends. Are we making friends? Yeah? Even though I'm English? Even though you're struggling to understand my accent? Even though the Queen of England has a hat on at the moment that says, "Make America Great Britain Again"? I think we can still be friends. But we might fall out over this picture. Are you ready? Trigger alert. What color is the dress? Could you just talk to your neighbor? Just tell them what color the dress is. Okay, if you see white and gold, put your hand up. Yeah, that's right, and in India too. And if you see blue and black, put your hand up. Interesting. Weird. I have a theological theory that if you see white and gold and you're looking for a church, you should really go Anglican. Because they see white dresses and gold everywhere. And if you see blue and black, maybe you should go Baptist. Because we see water where other people don't. But on the 25th of February 2015, this picture nearly broke the internet. Because people couldn't work out why they saw different things to everybody else. And for me, this is a wonderful parable of leadership. Leadership is about having vision to see things differently to everyone else. When other people see problems, you see opportunity. When other people see chaos, you see a way through. It can be a lonely experience. I sometimes struggle to relate to managers. You know the difference between a leader and a manager? A manager likes to keep things together, neat and tidy and systematized. And the leader is their worst nightmare because the leader sees disruptive change. And bringing those two things together can be explosive when it works well or traumatic when it doesn't. But you know the difference between a visionary and a visionary leader? A visionary sees things differently, but a visionary leader helps other people to see things differently. You take people on the journey with you. And that's my job. I want to help people see children differently. Let me show you another picture. This is Robert. Let's call him Robert. It's not his real name. Robert is currently in foster care in the United Kingdom. In fact, he's been in foster care for most of his life. He is in a little book where prospective adopters can look at the biography of a child and decide which one they want to adopt. It's the most traumatic book you can imagine to read. Now, because Robert is 5 years old and Robert has speech delay, and that means sometimes he acts out in class and he's difficult to manage, Robert waits and waits and waits to be adopted. People say, you know what, I wasn't really looking for a 5-year-old, I wanted a baby. I wasn't really looking for a child with speech delay, I want a normal one. I'm worried that if this child is disruptive at 5, what's he going to be like at 15? What does it feel like to be Robert? To know that your future has been written off when you're just 5 years old. My job is to help people see Robert as treasure and not trouble. To give people a different vision of what he can be. Jonathan Swift, the author of Gulliver's Travels, says this: vision is the art of seeing what is invisible to others. And for me, that's my job. I've got to help people see Robert differently. Because if they don't, there are some terrible statistics that happen to him. If Robert stays in foster care until he's a teenager and then he ages out, chances are some bad things happen. Children that age out of foster care make up 1% of the UK population, but they make up 25% of our homeless population. Children that age out of foster care make up between 40 and 50% of the UK prison population. And even worse, in some areas it's 30%, in other areas it's 70% of sex workers are young women that have aged out of foster care. That does not have to be their future. Not when they're just 5 years old and they're looking for a family. Not all stories end like this. A story that took place not a million miles away from here will give you another perspective. 2 children taken into care because of a domestic violence situation. Dad was so violent the children had to be separated so he couldn't track them down. The little girl, she was taken to a well-to-do family. And she was well educated, and when she grew up, she entered the civil service. She wanted to serve her nation. The little boy, he grew up in a farming community. And when he grew out of care, he joined the military for some structure in his life. And he ended up being a hero. He didn't just save his squadron. He didn't just save his country. He didn't just save his world. He saved the whole galaxy. Because this took place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Luke and Leia Skywalker, you remember? In care, saved the world. They are not alone. Our film industry, our authors, our poets, they see vulnerable children differently to most of us. They see treasure in them. Think about it. Think about the films you know. James Bond, adopted. Batman, brought up by his butler. Harry Potter, fostered terribly by his aunt and uncle. Spider-Man, brought up by his auntie. Are you with me? Tarzan, fostered by gorillas. What is it about the film industry? They believe that a child that has had the most difficult start in life could have superpowers to change the world. But not us. We see trouble, not treasure. As leaders, we are called to see things differently. We're called to see potential in people when others only see problems. We're called to see hope when others only see chaos. And we are called to see opportunities when others only see obstacles. You know the stories of leaders that didn't do that. Think of Decca Records failing to sign the Beatles. Think of Blockbuster failing to do the Netflix deal. Think of Kodak failing to make use of inventing the digital camera. We know when leaders fail to see treasure. Standout leaders see beyond initial appearances and make unlikely possibilities come true. My foster children have taught me as a leader to see potential, to see hope, and see opportunity. What about you? In your team, in your organization, in your church, in your community, are you a leader of vision that can see hope, potential, and opportunity? Other people looking at Steve Jobs and James Dean and Marilyn Monroe and Eddie Murphy and Cher and Louis Armstrong saw trouble, but their adoptive parents saw treasure. In your organization, in your team, who are the diamonds in the rough that with your investment, your care, your attention could become the heroes on your team? Okay, that's vision. I want to talk now about inclusion. My wife and I were on holiday, and we got a call. And we knew it was a dangerous call because we could tell from caller ID it was social services. And they said, Krish and Miriam, we know you've already got 6 children in your house, but is there room for any more? My wife is already in the car, revving it up, ready to go home from holiday and get ready for this new child. I'm a little bit hesitant, and I just want some intel. What can you tell me about this child? Just tell me something. And the social worker says, well, can't tell you much. All we can tell you is he's a biter. Biter? That's not what I want to hear. What does he bite? Does he bite stuff? I can cope with him biting stuff. Like, we've got loads of teeth marks in our house, on our furniture, from animals and guests and stuff. But if he bites people, I'm in trouble, aren't I? Is it safe for the rest of my family? And then the other part of my brain kicks in. The ethical part of my brain. Maybe even the Christian part of my brain. And it says, hang on, biter, that is an inadequate description of a human person, isn't it? Because you and I, we are more than the worst thing we've ever done. Or the worst thing that's ever been done to us. I need to use vision, don't I, with this little boy. I need to see value, dignity, and worth in him. Enough so that I can welcome him, include him into my family. Imagine 2 20-pound notes. Not worth what they used to be, but 2 20-pound notes. One brand new, fresh out of the mint, clean and pure. The other scrunched up and broken. Which one is worth more? Every single human being, whatever their history, whatever's been done to them, whatever they've done, has intrinsic value and needs to be included into our lives. For many people, leadership is about exclusion. It's about keeping people away. Some of us as leaders employ people to keep people away from us. People to screen our calls so that we don't have to talk to those kinds of people. People give us access. You know, the gold card that gets you into the special lounge so you don't have to spend time with normal people. That's real leadership, right? Or what about the organizational chart? What does that tell the world? The person at the top is far, far away from the person at the bottom. I don't know about you, friends, but that's not my understanding of leadership. We're in a church, so maybe it's all right to mention that my model of leadership comes from Jesus. Jesus said that he did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for the elite, for the best, for the rich, for the many. That was our Lord's calling. So if the most powerful and significant leader the world has ever seen had time to welcome the lost and the lonely and the marginalized, how can we who dare to call ourselves leaders be any different? There are terrible statistics for people who never know the inclusion into a family. I told you what happens to kids that age out of care in the UK and in America. But there's another group of children. 8 million children right now in the world are living in orphanages. Most of them have living parents. Children that age out of orphanages, well, a third of them end up homeless, a fifth end up criminalized, and 1 in 10 take their own life. Why are these children not being welcomed into families? Why are they being put into institutions rather than welcomed into families? Some say it's because of prejudice. We don't want those kind of children in our kind of families. But what is the opposite of prejudice? Tolerance? I say that's too passive. Respect? I think that's too vague. I think the opposite of prejudice is hospitality. Prejudice shuts out people. Hospitality welcomes them in. Prejudice makes people lock their doors. Hospitality makes people open their doors. Prejudice looks at the outside. Hospitality looks at the inside. Prejudice leads to segregation. Hospitality leads to solidarity. Prejudice comes from being risk-averse. Hospitality values those deemed risky. Prejudice sees problems. Hospitality sees people. What would it look like if our homes and our organizations and our leadership teams were places of hospitality for all sorts of people? I would love to see that radical, risky hospitality in practice in our churches, in our companies, and in our communities. Let me tell you the story of Sarah Baker. She went into foster care when she was 15 years old because her mother died. And when she went into foster care, when she aged out of foster care, she was criminalized. And she ended up serving 2 years in prison for a violent assault. And when she was coming to the end of her time in prison, she applied for 70 jobs. She applied for 70 jobs and got 70 rejection letters. Nobody wanted to include her in their company, except for Timpson. James Timpson runs a bunch of retail outlets across the UK. And one of his managers took pity on Sarah and offered her a job. And he didn't just offer her a job, he offered her somewhere to stay when she came out of prison. And he didn't just offer her somewhere to stay, he offered to pay for counseling for some of the trauma she'd experienced early in her life. And he didn't just pay for counseling when she needed a deposit to have her own apartment, he paid for it. This young woman is flourishing and growing and is now a standout employee. But this is not a one-off story for Timpsons. They have 2,000 retail outlets across the UK. They turn over £320 million a year. Of their 5,500 employees, 600 are former prisoners. How many was that? 600. Where did that vision come from? James Timpson grew up in a family that fostered. His mum and dad took in hundreds of children over decades. Many of them had parents that were in prison. And because of that, James Timpson wanted to make a difference in the lives of prisoners. Friends, some of you are worried that at the end of this session, there's a little booth where if you give your email address, you can take a child home. I've got these booths all around the world. You know, you get a foster kid to take home. No, it doesn't work like that. It's a lot harder. But what legacy would it give to your children if you were an inclusive family that welcomed the most vulnerable? It sowed a legacy into James Timpson's life, didn't it? The kids were helped. James, the birth son, was helped. And now he wants to go and help other people. It's radical, redemptive inclusion. I wonder what it could do in your life. This is what James Timpson says about running a business. Running a business with kindness and love at its core is the most commercially sensible and fun way to run a business. Don't focus on profit. Focus on kindness and love and watch the profit follow. I remember in 2008, I was watching television. I was watching the news. And there'd been a terrible attack on a hotel in Mumbai. Terrorists had broken in and started to shoot people in the swimming pool and people in the dining area. And I was appalled by it. But I knew I had no family in India. It didn't really touch me until I saw my uncle in the crowd crying. Turns out my auntie had been on a business trip in that hotel. And when the government had come in, they'd been told all the guests had go to lie low, stay in your room, lock the door. And then the terrorists had set fire to the hotel. And 3 days later, when they came in and put the fires out, they found my auntie overcome by the flames and the smoke. But in the aftermath, and as we were kind of grieving and trying to put things together, stories of incredible bravery came out of the Taj Hotel in Mumbai. And people were trying to work out, why were the staff there so brave? Some formed a human barricade, just waiters and concierges getting around the guests so they wouldn't be shot by the terrorists. Others coming back from holidays and sneaking in and trying to get food and water to stranded guests. Why were the staff so generous, so brave? It turns out the Taj Hotel is one of the top 20 hotels in the world. But they didn't recruit their staff from the elite schools in India. In fact, they went to the most deprived villages they could find and started education and employment opportunities, and the staff came from there. And because of the radical inclusion that the Taj Hotel showed to their staff, it was returned by loyalty and bravery. Friends, as we invest in those that need us, they will be loyal staff members and they will turn the world upside down for us. How is your company? How is your team? How are you personally doing on redemptive inclusion? Look around your leadership team. Does everyone look like you? Are they all from the same social and economic background as you? Are we making space to include those that others would leave behind? Where are those care leavers? Where are those people that need us? We can make a huge difference. Finally, proximity. This is a bit of an embarrassing tale to tell. I was applying for the top job in the charity that I was working for. And I thought I had a good chance of getting the job because I'd been acting director while the old CEO had left. And I had a standout resume. I thought I did a brilliant job in the interview. In fact, I was so excited that I might have got the job. To celebrate potential employment, I took my family out to watch the Lion King musical. And then the call came. The call came from the search team in the middle of a song. The song was, "I just can't wait to be king." I thought, this is a sign. I am in. The call went, "Mr. Kandaya, you did a great job in the interview, but I'm sorry to tell you, you are not the leader we are looking for. We don't think you will be a bang the table kind of leader. And that's what we want." And I thought to myself, hang on, I think they're right. I am not a bang the table leader. That's not my style. Forcing my way through brute force and personality, that doesn't suit me. I'm not a bang the table leader. I'm a set the table leader. I want to invite people in. I want to show hospitality to them wherever they're from, whatever they're about. I want to include them in. I don't want to smash them through. In my house, our kitchen table is the most valuable piece of furniture we have. Not because of what it's made of, not even because of the quantity or quality of food that's served on it, but because of the relationships that are formed around it. When a foster child comes into our house, the kitchen table is the first time they meet everybody. I remember one lad turned up and my wife had cooked 24 sausages and she was about to place it on the table. But before she even touched the table, 20 of those sausages were on this boy's plate. And he was guarding them with his knife and his fork. And I'm getting angry, like, how could you be so greedy? What's going on? And then I think, hang on, what kind of story has happened in this boy's life that when he sees food, he's got to grab it and protect it? Set the table leaders make room for people to tell their stories so that you can understand their behaviors. Set the table leaders do not force their way through. They invite people to bring their best selves to work, whatever that looks like. As leaders, we need to get proximate with people that need us. You might know Brian Stevenson, the incredible prison reformer. He talks about the power of proximity. I agree. But I think we shouldn't just visit people that are in need. We invite them into not just our programs, not into our buildings, not just into our companies, but into our homes and our hearts and our lives. And as we do that, we set the tone for what our organizations are going to be. What kind of organization, what kind of company, what kind of church do you want to lead? Don't you want to lead a church that's full of grace and compassion? You do that as we set the agenda and show people what grace, hospitality really looks like. I want to tell you a last story about that little boy who was standing the wrong side of my front door. I remember standing with him the other side of another door. This is the door to his new adoptive family. And he's standing there and he's shaking and he's holding my hand and he's worried. In fact, it's been quite a difficult drive from our house to here. And on the way, he'd said to me that he wasn't sure it was going to work out. And I said, look, they love you. They've made a beautiful bedroom. Remember we went to see it? They put a Liverpool Football Club poster on top of the bed. And I know you love Liverpool. I know you didn't when you first arrived, but you do now, and that's great. Your brother's going to be there with you. They love you. And he said, Krish, do you think it would be all right if I called this new family Mum and Dad? And stuff is going off inside me. Fireworks are going off inside me. Because this little boy, the only place he ever wanted to go was home. But he never went home again. The closest he got was on Google Maps. You know how you can put it on satellite view and you can zoom and you can zoom and you can zoom? He was hoping to catch a glimpse of his dog or his mum or his dad or his sister. But now he's telling me in the car that he's ready to receive a new family, to call them Mum and Dad, that he might belong there. Fireworks are going off inside me. I want to sing, I want to shout, but I'm English, so I just kind of nod. But I tell you what, it's really hard driving a car when you're crying. I remember the day I was too scared to let this little boy into my house, and now I'm too scared to let him go. He's brought vision into my house. He's shown me that there is treasure inside children that other people see as trouble. He's shown me the power of radical inclusion, and he showed me what it means to get proximate with someone that needs you and how they can bless you. This little boy gave me fresh vision. He gave me inclusion into his affections and proximity that transformed our lives for better. He fostered a new approach to leadership in me. And my hope is today, he's done the same for you. Thank you for listening.
Hey guys, Sam Collier here again. Listen, I know by now some of you may be hungry. I know your stomach's growling, but hopefully your heart is full because there's been so much amazing content. We want you to go to lunch, but before you go to lunch, I want to tell you about one thing. If you have loved all of the artists that you've seen, I want you to go to this website. Go to globalleadership.org/Summit Arts. You'll see and you'll find a list of all of the artists that have performed and that have ministered, in a sense, to us while we've been growing in leadership content. Go to lunch, make sure you eat, but don't fall asleep because the best is yet to come. We'll see you soon.
From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name. I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear, but I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear,
From the ash I am born again, forever safe in the Savior's hands. You are more than my words could say. I follow you, Lord, for all my days. Fix my eyes, follow in your ways. Forever free in unending grace. 'Cause you are my freedom. Your love, never ending. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. In the midst of the darkest night, let your love be the shining light, breaking chains that were holding me. You sent your son down and set me free. Everything of this world will fade. I'm pressing on till I see your face. I will live that your will be done. I won't stop till your kingdom come. 'Cause you are my freedom. Your love, never ending. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Waking up knowing there's a reason. All my dreams come alive. Life is for living. With you, I made my decision. You lift me up, fill my eyes with wonder. Forever young in your love, this freedom's untainted. With you, no moment is wasted. This is living now. This is living now. You take me higher than I've been before. It's your perfect love sees me soar. God, your freedom is an open door. You are everything I want and more. You lead the way, got your eye beside me. In your love, I'm complete. There's nothing like living with you. This life you created, I choose is living now. This is living now.
of solid gold, like a vow that is tested, like a covenant of old. Your love is enduring through the winter rain and beyond the horizon. With mercy for today, faithful you have been, and faithful you will be. You pledged yourself to me, and it's why I sing your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Ever be on my lips. You fathered the orphan, your kindness makes us whole, and you shoulder our weakness, and your strength becomes our own, and you're making me like you, clothing me in white, bringing beauty from ashes. For you will hurt your bride, free of all her guilt, and rid of all her shame, and known by her true name. And it's why I sing your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Ever be on my lips. You will be praised, you will be praised, with angels and saints who we sing worthy are you, Lord. And you will be praised, you will be praised, with angels and saints who we sing worthy are you, Lord. Ever be on my lips.
From your grace, I can't deny you're half of mine, and it's unrelenting chase. I was on the edge of deception, caught up in my own hesitation, until your love took over me. So I let go and I let love show me life like it's supposed to be. On a oasis, here awaits us all the freedom I'll ever need. Now I'm alive. you. So let your love reign over everything. Take the world, I'm content. Just Jesus. Just Jesus. The way, the truth, the life. This is all I want. That the love I have for you doesn't fade along with you. Can you help with that? The reason that I ask, I've seen far too many friends walk away and not come back. I want more than that. I won't wash away like branches in rain. I'd rather be kindling in the light. Set me on fire like I've never known. I wanna love you more as life goes on. So all of my days I'll place my first, the first love. This is all I pray over everything I ask. That my friends one day come back. Can you help with that? Gotta know you can. 'Cause the fire won't mean nothing if it ends right here with me. You want more than that. The river runs fast. You wait at the banks and pull us like driftwood from the wild. So set me on fire like I've never known. I wanna love you more as life goes on. So all of my days I'll place my first love first again. Once I was drifting, but you called me home. So I'll give my life for the ones still lost. And I'll see my friends reclaim their first, love first again. So set me on fire like I've never known.
question on steroids, because if I ask you how, first of all, you love to tell me how to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it
You're
calls you to
projecting right now. You're
stop and
projecting on
think.
me.
But how triggers what Daniel Kahneman, who won the Nobel Prize in behavioral economics, slow thinking, in-depth thinking. And I'll ask you how, not necessarily because I'm looking for an answer, but more I'm trying to shape your thinking. I'm trying to get you to stop and think and put you through an in-depth process. And there's a lot of good reasons for me doing that.
What happens when you feel the negotiation is slipping away and it's out of your control?
All right, so then I'll call it out. And, you know, again, it's the elephant in the room. If it's slipping away, if it's out of control, it's probably because at that point in time that I haven't earned your trust. And I'll actually say, you know, it doesn't feel like I've earned your trust.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm going to encourage you to share with me what the problem is. And I can't, if I say, you know, why is this slipping away? You're going to feel accused.
Right.
But if I simply, or if I say, I don't want this to slip away, again, it's a denial.
Mm-hmm.
But instead I'll say like, feels like this is slipping away.
So
And
you'll call it out.
if you're going to answer me, I've got to draw it out of you in a way that calls you to trust me.
Okay. Who wants to engage in maybe a little role play, a little simulation here to see, to answer some basic questions? Who wants a raise? One person in the audience wants a raise. Who wants to get their kids to bed on time? I do, yes. So let's go through a couple of these real life situations. My 5-year-old holds me hostage every single night, putting him to bed. We have to stay with him. We have to interlock hands and fall asleep with him. And it's a long process. My other 2 kids go to bed fine. So for those and our host sites, global audience here, help us walk through that negotiation. How can I get my kid to sleep, please? I've literally tried everything.
I'll babysit your kid for a couple of days.
Son, you're going to Camp Chris.
Yeah.
Mom! I know. I'll seriously take you up on that.
I put him to work.
Okay, I do like that. Okay, so where do I begin?
All right, so anytime we're going to use a how question, and we're going to make what they want the path to what you want.
The how question.
How question. So your 5-year-old wants something. He wants to go to Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to watch a TV show over the weekend. And again, the issue is not whether they answer. The issue is what you made their brain do when you ask the how question. Now, let's say you're going to go to Disney World. You say, hey, look, how are we going to go to Disney World if you don't go to bed early? And they'll stop and think. Now, your job as a parent also is to teach your kids how to think. And this is helping your kids learn to think better with a how question. And it gets them to think a little bit, trigger about the future, connect today with the future. And best of all, it wears them out.
So you just continue to pound them with how question and eventually they'll just fall asleep?
They'll get tired. They'll fall asleep answering a how question.
So the how question triggers their brain. They have to think. And repeatedly, that's going to wear them out.
It's going to wear them out. I mean, they win the battle because they're wearing you out, so, you know, you're wearing them out faster.
I cannot wait to try this out on my child.
I think she's going to start asking her husband how.
But if it doesn't work, I'm seriously sending him to Camp Chris.
All right.
I'm definitely taking you up on that. Okay, let's say that I want a raise.
All right, so
Hypothetically, how do I go about getting a raise?
Raise, a little bit different. Bad news.
Just bad news.
Here's the bad news. Employers, bosses, bosses see people as selfish. Because the only time you walk into the boss's office is when you want something. You've conditioned them that you're not going to step through that door unless you want something from them. You're conditioning them. So let's change the conditioning. Walk in and say, how can I be involved in projects that are critical to the company's strategic future? Now, instantaneously, what you say and what they hear, what you've just said, what they hear is that you want to make their life better. You didn't come in there to make your life better. You came in there to make the entire team's life better, because critical to our future. Negotiation is about what's going to happen in the future. We might be unhappy with what's happening today, but we can shift to a moment in the future that we both agree on and work our way back. And so talking about a successful future together now instantly makes me more valuable, because I'm not out for me, I'm out for everybody. And critical projects also, what really matters in where we're going, what is going to paint the best future possible for us. And we not only will get involved in stuff that will accelerate our career, we'll get visibility with the most important people in a company. You will, in fact, make yourself more valuable based on the experience. And then if they don't pay you, and not everybody will, you now have a much better resume and you're much more marketable.
So you're asking that question, how can I become invaluable? How can I be a part of the important things of this company? But you're not following up with a raise.
No,
you're not following up with, can I have a raise?
No, absolutely not. You know, leave the selfish stuff out. You know, make yourself more valuable in order to, if you're always more valuable than what you're paid, if you're always making yourself more valuable than what you're paid, it kind of makes you limitless on how much you can get paid. So you focus on what you bring to the table. Not every employer has sense, but if they have any sense to retain you, they're going to have to pay you more. And if they don't, somebody else with sense will.
Is everybody enjoying this? I feel like this is so applicable. It's so applicable to everything that we do. Okay, I'm going to buy a car. I am going to actually buy a minivan this December. How can I get the best price on the minivan? I literally get anxiety when I walk into a dealership. Sorry if there's any dealerships or salesmen here. I love you, but you give me anxiety. So how do I deal with that?
You know, say what they're going to say before they say it. It leaves them utterly with nothing to do other than drop the price. I mean,
what are they going to say?
all right, so and forgive me because I'll talk about a story in the book. I drive a truck, a Toyota 4Runner. That's I'm in love with the color. It's not red; it's salsa red pearl.
Wait, salsa red pearl?
Salsa red pearl. I mean, it just makes me feel good to say that. And so I'm smitten with this truck. And I go in, and instead of having him use that against me, I said, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Because he's going to say to me, look, you got to pay the price because you love the truck. And I say, I love your truck. It's the most beautiful thing. I mean, there's not another one around it like it. I mean, it's the most beautiful color I've ever seen. And then I looked at him, I said, how am I supposed to pay that?
I would never want to be on the other end of a negotiation with you. So what does that do by simply asking, how am I supposed to pay that?
Well, the guy looked at me and he blinked about 3 times. And he twitched a little. And then he got up and he went back and he came out with a lower offer. And then I looked at him and said, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. You're so generous. It was worth what you asked before, let alone this is an even better price.
It's not even fair for the poor guy.
And then I said, how am I supposed to pay that? And he blinked and he twitched. And he went back and he got another lower price.
You got him to knock the price down twice? 5 times?
I figured as long as he kept getting up and going back, I wasn't going to stop.
Did he eventually just pay you to leave?
Yeah, well, I got the truck.
Salsa red pearl.
That sounds good, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds so good. By the way, one of the executives here at the summit, who I will not name, said that it was terrifying going into the negotiation for your speaker contract here. And he said, even though he had to deal with your assistant. So did you take it easy on them? at the summit negotiating?
We take it easy on everybody.
I am not buying that. Not at all. So what happens when fear starts to creep in during the negotiation process? How do you deal with fear?
Well, you know, the quickest hack to fear, because we're hardwired to be afraid. I mean, our emotional system is 75% negative. I mean, it was necessary when we really had to worry about getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, and we've inherited that genetic wiring. But the quickest hack really is to be genuinely curious. I mean, if you're really interested, if you're genuinely curious, that really bypasses all that, keeps you in a positive frame of mind, keeps you from feeling like you're committing to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Genuine curiosity is the fastest hack to avoid fear.
Genuine curiosity. And it kind of goes back to tactical empathy, just listening to the other person. They just want to be heard, understood. You don't have to agree with them, right?
And in most cases, they don't need you to agree. They just need to be heard. Again, that's the connect thing. You just hear people out. They feel connected. And the steps that the leaps that you take forward, doesn't matter who they are on the other side.
Right.
Is wonderful. It's amazing.
When was and I know you've been in so many different circumstances, so many terrifying circumstances as the lead international hostage negotiator for the FBI. Can you recount a specific time where fear started to creep into the negotiation and how you dealt with it?
Well, I always worked with a team. I mean, I relied on the process. I worked with a team. I mean, if I got worried about what we were doing, I would always start bouncing stuff off of my team. So, you know, I can't really. I had enough faith in the process. I don't remember being scared of it. And again, I believe, you know, you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go as a team. I always win as a team. We had a team. We have a team now. We always had a team then.
Yeah. You were sharing an interesting story. You didn't grow up saying, I want to be a hostage negotiator. I really don't know anybody that does, and I kind of worry about you. If you do grow up saying, I want to be a hostage negotiator, you kind of fell into it, right?
Yeah, well, almost literally. I was a member of the SWAT team. I was on the FBI SWAT team, and I re-injured my knee, and I had it reconstructed for the second time, and I knew that there's a shelf life. You only, I don't know how many, 5, 6 times. And so the negotiators always went out with the SWAT guys, and what they did looked easy. I mean, I could talk to, they talk, I talk. I talk all the time.
Right?
How hard could it be?
So how hard was it? How hard was it? Famous last words.
Yeah. I like how hard could it be for me is, the redneck says, hey, watch this, right?
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
But, yeah, like anything, like what you do. I mean, you're an extraordinarily talented interviewer.
Thank you.
That takes work. That takes focus. That takes delight in doing it. Attention, putting your hours in, as Coyle would say, communicating with people. And, yeah, the subtleties to it, I was fascinated by. The first thing I did was I volunteered on a suicide hotline, and it struck me, because they told us up front, you won't be on the phone any longer with anybody than 20 minutes. I'm like, 20 minutes? You got to be kidding me. And the movies are on there for hours.
Yeah.
But when I learned that, what we now refer to as emotional intelligence, just to connect, that you could be on a phone with somebody that was suicidal, and 20 minutes later they'd be okay. Or 10 minutes, less than 20.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, this stuff's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to work because we're people, not because we're in crisis, but because we're people. And I started applying it in every aspect of my life, and yeah, it's amazing. So thank God I hurt my knee.
Oh yeah, only we're glad that you hurt your knee too. How's your knee doing?
It's still attached.
That we know of. It could be bionic. Chris Voss, we have really enjoyed this. I've enjoyed this. Like I said, I was a little terrified, but you kept it easy for me. So my husband loves your book. My husband's in commercial real estate. He manages a large real estate firm in New York City, and he buys your book for all of his agents. Your book has never split the difference. So thanks for all the work that you've done. And there's so much. If you haven't read the book, Never Split the Difference, this is my public service announcement. Make sure you get the book, because you do a phenomenal job and you get really nuanced. So
Thank you very much. A privilege to be here.
Thank you, Chris.
Looking back at the past 10 years, when I first saw inequality and I saw injustice, to now, I'm in Portugal, in Lisbon, working in the Lisbon Project with migrants and refugees. This is not what I thought I would be doing with my life. I was 14 the first time that I went to Guinea-Bissau with my dad. Very small country in Western Africa, very poor country. I had never seen poverty with my own eyes. Now what I've seen, I can't unsee. And so when I graduated university, I was sure, now God's gonna take me to a developing country where I'm gonna be able to use whatever I've learned and just dedicate my life to addressing the poverty that first touched my heart when I was 14. I had the experience, I had the studies, I had the right degree. It seemed like the door was opening, everything was gonna work out, all my plans and everything I had done, and the doors kept closing. Was here in Portugal when two friends approached me from church and said, Gabby, have you noticed the migrant and refugee situation in Portugal? We think that you actually should stay in Portugal and we should talk and see if there's anything that you could do. And immediately I shut down the conversation and I said, no, absolutely not. I'm sorry, I'm not staying in Portugal. Maybe speak to somebody else because it's not me. At the same time, I started meeting a few families in Portugal from Nepal, from Iraq, seeing the poverty that they were living in my city, that supposedly everybody's comfortable. Supposedly everybody has access to basic needs. And so I realized that this was something missing. I was invited to go to the GLS. John Maxwell was just finishing his session, and he was talking about a lady named Gabby, and she had intentionally decided to add value to other people's lives. He kind of looked in the camera, and as if he was looking straight into my eyes and saying,
who's going to be the next Gabby? Who's going to be the next young lady who says, I am going to intentionally add value to people every day and make my life count?
So that's where I really decided, okay, that I'm here. I want to be the next Gabby. I knew God was calling me to work with migrants and refugees in Portugal, in the city of Lisbon. I decided, okay, I'm going to take the step. We got the space and focused on the people, trusted God for provision. Migrants, refugees, they started coming, and I didn't have a team. I didn't have anyone to provide the services. And I had to be a lawyer, I had to be a doctor, I had to be a teacher, I had to be everything that I could. I'm trying to build this by myself. So where's the people that God's gonna bring? Where are they? Because right now I'm feeling a little bit alone. And then slowly I started getting volunteers. I started getting volunteer teachers, volunteer doctors, nurses, volunteer lawyers. In less than a year, we grew so quickly. I realized I couldn't do this on my own anymore. So now we're a team of 5. Full-time with over 100 registered volunteers. We planted a church alongside the Lisbon Project, so we grew quite a lot. Having a language barrier was a huge problem to finding employment. It's how you make money, it's how you sustain yourself. People come, they don't speak Portuguese. If they don't speak Portuguese, they can't enter the job market. Mohsen is originally from Iraq, where he was in a reality of war, and he arrived in Portugal when he was about 23. He was alone. He had no parents, no family, no brothers here in Portugal. He spoke very little English at the time, so communicating was a little bit difficult. Mohsen used to be very up and down with his mood. He hadn't spoken to any of his family in a long time. He didn't see any future for himself. He would come in just completely down, completely depressed, completely sad. We have a partnership with a local grocery store chain in Portugal. We made a deal for him to work the night shift. He could work with his local team in the evenings, so he would still have to start improving his Portuguese, but at least he could start somewhere. And ever since he started working, it changed his world. He was empowered. He realized that he was building something. He was taking steps forward. And so last month, he finally got his residency card that gives him 5 years to be in Portugal, and he doesn't have to worry about papers or anything. All the Portuguese community knows about migrants and refugees is war. At the Lisbon Project, we do a lot of culture celebration. Every month we choose one of the countries that are represented in our community, and we celebrate that country. We celebrate their music, their dance, their food, showing people that these foreigners that are in our country, they're just people. And many times they have great things to add to our community. When we open our eyes to a certain injustice, it just takes willingness for God to use us. Because God is a God of justice. God is a God of leadership. If there's anything we lack, He's the provider to give it to us. When I first saw inequality and I saw injustice, this is not how I thought I was going to use my life. But this is how God wants to use me.
Three years ago, I attended the Global Leadership Summit for the very first time, where John Maxwell literally looked into the camera and called me by name. Now, I may not know your name, and I'm certainly no John Maxwell, but I have flown across the ocean to tell you that there is change waiting to happen with your name on it. And the only question you have to ask yourself is, what will I do? Not necessarily what can I do, because I have learned that the can comes after the will. The ability comes after the availability. I'm well aware that the success of the Lisbon Project is not a product of my 3-page resume or lengthy qualifications. Rather, it is a result of 22-year-old me simply saying yes. Yes to going beyond my comfort zone. Yes to going beyond the expectations that so often limit us. Yes to seeing the injustice that disturbed me as an invitation to create change. And maybe you don't have to start something new. Maybe, just maybe, there's already movement happening around you, and you just have to say yes to jumping in. You see, I may have started the Lisbon Project, but I am only standing here today before all of you thanks to over 130 men and women who have volunteered over the past 2 years with their skills, their time, and their resources. Men and women who said yes to going beyond with me. Thanks to the Global Leadership Summit, I was able to listen to the prompting that was already shouting from within my heart. I was taken from mere sight and given a vision. And so I want to stand here today and say thank you to all those who contribute to making the Global Leadership Summit available in so many nations of the world, including Portugal. The GLS not only triggered me into action, but it has helped form the substance of my leadership ever since. It has spotlighted the power of my influence and confronted me with how I choose to use it. Today, the Lisbon Project has gone from being a crazy idea to being a well-established nonprofit organization that has assisted in the integration and protection of over 400 migrants and refugees from all over the world in the city of Lisbon. So as I return home and as we grow, we will continue to live the motto we have so often experienced. It is only impossible until it is done. And so the questions for you remain, what will you do with your influence? What will you do with the invitation to create change wherever you are, wherever you find yourself? What is your grander vision? Thank you.
At the age of 31, Asia Brown made history as the youngest elected mayor of Compton, California. A national trailblazer, her vision focused on family values, quality of life, economic development, and infrastructural growth. Brown started a gang reduction and intervention initiative, resulting in a record low for homicides in over 2 decades. She also reduced the unemployment rate by 50%, while successfully attracting new companies and employment to the city. By making these major strides in her first term, she was overwhelmingly re-elected to a second 4-year term in 2017. As a strong advocate for youth, women's rights and equality, Mayor Brown has received a number of honours, including the National Action Network Martin Luther King Award, as well as the esteemed John F. Kennedy New Frontier Award. Please give a warm summit welcome to Mayor Asia Brown.
Such an honor to be here today, and we're all here in the audience tuning in from campuses around the world because regardless of where we've come from or where we are, we're all dedicated to making a difference. We're committed to shaking things up. We've decided, to be a force for change. We've dedicated to overcoming obstacles. We're invested in being a catalyst for progress. Whether we are leading the way as the head of our teams, organizations, lead ministry, a member of a team, or we may just be here for the most important leadership of all, leading ourselves. Regardless of where you've been or where you're going, you are it. And let's face it, people are usually more apt to change when system failure is imminent. If there is no new course of action and the need for change is less tied to being efficient and more tied to survival. In order to utilize vision to move the mission forward, a clear understanding about timing is essential and can make or break your cause. I've learned through serving that there is a huge difference between being busy and being fruitful. Being fruitful is tied to production. Being busy is tied to actions, not results. Jumpstarting catalytic change is a direct byproduct of vision, buy-in, collaboration, and timing. When all of these factors are firing on all cylinders, production is imminent. Let's face it, we've all been a part of something that just wasn't producing. I can almost guarantee you that one of the 4 factors I just mentioned, vision, buy-in, collaboration, and timing, were out of sync. Let's get into it. In order to overcome with vision, you'll need to understand 4 key principles. Vision is the vehicle to creating momentum. If we can be honest, most of us can admit that we want to go fast. We don't like delays. No one wants to go anywhere slowly. We all have an inherent need for speed when it comes to wanting to accomplish goals. Vision is that vehicle that enables us to pivot to a new direction and get to the fast track. I want to share my story. When I first ran for mayor of the city of Compton, I knew that our city needed a dynamic change, but I also knew that it was critical to connect with stakeholders and educate myself on what they believe the key issues were in our community. All constituencies are different, and your biggest challenges may vary from neighborhood to neighborhood. I held a focus group and asked for feedback on key issues and community indicators, and I also discussed my recommendations based on what I heard and what I had prepared in advance. And one thing I just want to underscore is that everyone is an expert at their own post, and you cannot lose by gaining information from those that you're serving. Whether it's where they live, the department they lead, the widget that they make, people are a critical resource, and sometimes people in position can take that for granted. I want to just encourage you to grab John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and he talks about positional leadership and leading with influence. Visioning is a process. Obviously, it involves stakeholders. It also ensures that you are not working in a silo. And it also gives those voices of criticism a way to vent and come to the surface so that you can be tactical and address them head on. At the end of the day, building and creating any significant change requires buy-in. The leader should draw from those that they serve in order to get alignment to your organization and also to create unity in order for common ground and goals to be identified. And one action point: define shared progress up front. Be clear on what you define progress to be, or you'll allow someone else to do it for you. Second point, vision is power. Strategically deployed, launching a vision is equivalent to sending a heat-seeking missile into the atmosphere. The missile may encounter obstructions and delays that requires a new route to be calculated, but eventually, the missile will hit the target. The vision will manifest. The great thing about vision, it doesn't rely on one person. It relies on many. Once vision goes forward, the atmosphere begins conforming to that declaration. Vision is power. Vision is a consensus builder. Vision is a force multiplier. Vision activates. Vision clarifies. Vision amplifies. Vision excites. Vision charts a new course. Vision is the vehicle of momentum. Vision corrects. Vision affects. Visions manifest, and the vision will speak. My third point, vision relies on timing to be fruitful and to produce results. We find confirmation on this key principle in God's word, and this is one of my foundational scriptures for my leadership that God called me to. And it's Habakkuk 2, verse 2 and 4. And it says, "The Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tablets, that he that read it may," excuse me, let me back up. Let me get that right. "And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision down and make it plain, that he that may read it can run with it." And verse 3 says, "The revelation of waits an appointed time. It speaks of the end, and it will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it, and it will certainly come, and it will not delay." Certain conditions must be met in order to pick up momentum. And when we think about the power of what was just said, if you cast your vision and it's clear, people have the ability to pick up and join in. When you think about timing, all of us have been in positions where we wanted things to change immediately and effectively. But in reality, God has another plan, and his timing is perfect. And if you wait on that timing, the vision will manifest. Lastly, I cannot underscore this point enough that you have to be prepared. Having that strategy ready to meet the timing and produce fruitful results is critical, and that's what that vision does for us. I have a few topics I'm going to go over. The first is, how can we hone this vision? The first thing is to identify your objective. One simple question to ask to help us do this is, where do we want to take the team? By defining a destination point, people can know where we all want to go, and also informs everyone on how they can be a part of the bigger picture. Second point is, define that progress. Establish critical milestones. Having midway points helps to delay fatigue. People can understand where they need to take a drink of water. Indicators are helpful for us, and they keep us moving forward in fruitful movement. The third is, establish your priorities. You think about what must be addressed now. Identify what can wait. Delay is not a denial. It just means critical resources must be appropriated elsewhere in order to achieve the larger vision. Fourth point, communication plan is essential to achieving meaningful participation and buy-in. It's an essential ingredient to create momentum. People can't go with you if they don't know where you want to go, so communicating often is critical in order to get that momentum. Number 5 is identify obstacles in advance. We have to be tactical when we're affecting change. We have to know that there will be opposition. There will be people that don't want to go in a new direction. That's natural. So ensure that you have mapped that out. The 6th is formulate your navigation plan. As I just said, you need to be able to navigate